I had dreamed of the Victorian mansion on Maple Street since I was a young child. I might spend hours strolling past it and dreaming of residing in its opulent halls and tall turrets. I saved for 10 years. Every cent was anticipating the day when it would be put up for sale. My heart therefore almost stopped when I noticed my family's vehicles parked in the driveway. I'm 35-year-old Rebecca Chin, and I recently learned that my family had purchased the house I had been dreaming about for years. They were aware of my desire. Since the for sale sign was put up 3 months ago, I haven't discussed anything else. Good, I see. You're present. Amanda, my sister, called from the front porch while waving wildly and excitedly. We intended to surprise you. My father jingled the keys while my parents stood next to her. My mom smiled. All I needed to know was the smug delight on their faces. Purchasing a stunning home was not the only goal here. This had to do with beating me once more. Isn't it ideal? As she led me inside, Amanda gushed. We knew we had to have it instead when we learned you were going to bid on it. In any case, it's far too large for just you. As I memorized from the internet listing and followed them through the rooms, I maintained a neutral expression. The stained glass windows, the hand-carved banisters, and the original hardwood floors. Every detail that has captured my heart was theirs now. My mother declared that we would now hold all of the family get-togethers here, since your small apartment was never a suitable place for entertaining. They were unaware that I had been 3 steps ahead of them at the time. I knew what they were plotting as soon as I saw my sister showing the house last month. It resembled them exactly. They had turned everything into a contest my entire life, then seemed shocked when I was unhappy about losing. However, I hadn't lost this time. As they were intent on stealing my dream home, I had been stealthily closing on the larger, more historic mansion next door, Riverside Manor. Already in progress, the renovations were turning it into something that would make the Victorian appear modest in analogy. I remarked nonchalantly, observing their expressions, it must have been costly. Right now, the market is extremely competitive. Oh, remarked my father proudly, we managed. Some of us are capable of managing money wisely, in contrast to some who squander it all on schooling. The jab at my PhD wasn't as effective as it once was. I earned more than they imagined from a successful research career that resulted from my wasted degree. They viewed me as the family's failure because I was single, childless, and work-focused, but I've been leading a life that would have surprised them. It's beautiful. I'm moving, muttered as he made his way to the door. I should leave. I need to take care of myself, so I have some relocation preparations. Relocating? Amanda's eyebrows went up. Don't tell me that you're finally getting out of that rundown flat. I grinned. That kind of thing. I'll see. See you all shortly. After all, we'll be neighbors. I left them standing there, perplexed, relishing the anticipation. 2 weeks from now, when trucks would pull up to Riverside Manor, my family would understand that their brilliant scheme to outdo me had failed miserably. For now, though, I had improvements to supervise and contractors to meet. The wine. The ballroom's chandeliers were being restored to their former splendor, and the cellar required modernizing. I had always been undervalued by my family, who saw me more as a rival than a relative. They were going to find out that I had been playing chess the entire time, and they had been playing checkers. 2 weeks later, I stood in Riverside Manor's recently remodeled entryway and observed through the floor-to-ceiling windows as moving trucks arrived at my house. As planned, my sister Amanda showed up on her front porch with coffee in hand and a look of inquiry. Knowing that the show was about to start, I grinned. High-end furniture, antiques I had accumulated over the years, and artwork that would make my mother's replicas seem insignificant were all unloaded by the movers. Every item had been picked with care to convey a narrative. The tale of the prosperity I had achieved while my family was busy trying to destroy me. One of the movers, Miss Chen, came over with a clipboard. Where would you prefer the ballroom, the music room, or the grand piano? Amanda's coffee cup was frozen halfway to her mouth, as I could see. The ballroom. My Victorian had a lot of beautiful characteristics, but not what you'd expect from a ballroom. For now, the music room, I said. The restoration of the ballroom chandeliers is still ongoing. In an hour, the automobile of their parents screamed into their driveway. Amanda had clearly called them urgently. As my relatives gathered on their way, I pretended not to see and kept guiding the movers. Porch, observing the procession of opulent goods as they arrive at Riverside Manor. Rebecca. The sound of my mother's words echoed through the grass. "What's happening?" I pivoted, influencing astonishment. "Hi there. I've just moved into my new residence. Do you want to take a tour of the house?" They trailed me inside, their faces turning paler as they gazed at the hand-painted ceiling murals, the grand staircase, and the original moldings. Each room was bigger, and each feature was more remarkable than its Victorian. "However, how?" Amanda sputtered. "You couldn't afford it." I cut in smoothly, actually. I could. You believed that I was having trouble in my small flat for all those years. I was saving money, investing, and expanding my portfolio. Did you truly believe that I didn't have enough money? Had to? An intriguing tint of crimson had appeared on my father's face. "You gave us hope." I responded, "I permitted you to believe what you wanted to think. Just as when you outbid me on the Victorian, you gave me the impression that you were interested in my dreams. It's fair." They followed me throughout the home. Went by the library with its conservatory's exotic plants and two-story bookshelves led into the modern kitchen, which made their gourmet setup appear antiquated. "And this is the ballroom where I'll be," I replied, opening a pair of double doors. "This year's yearly family Christmas gathering." "That shouldn't be an issue, I suppose." "We always had Christmas, but my mother grasped her pearls." "Well," I grinned, "things change. In addition, my ballroom is large enough to accommodate the entire family. No more claustrophobic spaces." My phone buzzed as they stood there, dumbfounded. I checked the message and remarked, "Excuse me, the interior designer will be that person. Plans for the rooftop garden are being discussed." "Garden on the roof?" Amanda's voice had gotten a whole level higher. "Oh, yes," I said nonchalantly. "It's a beautiful view of your house from up there. You have a direct view of your backyard." Soon they were gone, gathered together, frantically muttering. I observed via my windows as they went back to their Victorian. The home they purchased to belittle me is now both literally and figuratively eclipsed by my achievements. The text began to come in that evening as I was sipping a glass of wine in my library. "Amanda first. Didn't you plan this out beforehand? We should then talk about Christmas preparations after hearing from my mother. And lastly, from my dad. We must discuss your methods for investing." I didn't read any of them. They viewed every family get-together as a contest for years. Every one of my accomplishments has been a hurdle to overcome. They would now have to live next door to the constant reminder that their plan had failed miserably. I hired a landscaping company to start working on my gardens the next morning. Early, very early, the noise would begin, and go on for weeks. Karma can occasionally be accompanied by the sound of power tools and construction machinery. "Family, welcome to the neighborhood. Allow the games to start." My family watched from their much smaller yard as I threw my first neighborhood get-together. A garden party that included everything my property had to offer, 2 months after moving to Riverside Manor. String players positioned themselves close to the fountain, while caterers arranged tasteful tables under imported pergolas. Isn't this a little too much? When they eventually arrived, my mother inquired, unable to withstand the earlier part of the party. They weren't asked to organize or run. "Not at all," I said, politely greeting the neighbors as I accepted a champagne glass from a passing waiter. The list of guests was carefully chosen: prominent real estate developers, university colleagues, and local business leaders who were constantly raving about how Riverside Manor was increasing local property values. My relatives. Despite its charm, Victorian was now viewed as the block's smaller, less striking home. I was cornered by the rose garden by Amanda. "Was this always your plan? To make us appear stupid?" "No," I replied honestly. "I intended to purchase the home of my dreams." "It was you who turned it into a contest. For once, I chose to follow your guidelines." I became the new social hub of the area after the party was a huge success. Attempts by my family to host in their Victorian era competing events failed. Everyone favored the opulence of the gardens and ballroom of Riverside Manor. About 6 months after I moved here, my father arrived at my door one morning. "We're thinking of selling," he said sternly. The upkeep expenses exceeded our projections. I gave a sympathetic nod. Victorian residences can be, however, it is somewhat costly to maintain. I've heard that since I refurbished Riverside Manor, property values have increased dramatically. His body shifted uneasily. Yes. Well, we figured you would want to purchase it. Keep it within the family. What makes a smaller home desirable to me? I inquired, naively. In addition, I really like seeing you all deal with the fallout from your decisions. They failed to sell. Their pride prevented them from doing so. Rather, they needed to adjust to their new situation. Their attempt to come out to me had failed, and every family get-together at my house served as a reminder of that. With each advancement, I traveled to Riverside. In contrast, Manor made their Victorians seem a bit shabby. That year's Christmas was especially fulfilling. Professionally adorned, the ballroom hosted our whole extended family in comfort. Once echoing my parents' condemnation of my life choices, my cousins now inquired about job options and investment advice. I observed my family navigating the celebration, appearing little in the big place they never thought I'd have, and I felt peaceful satisfaction instead of triumph. They had tried to outdo me for years in an attempt to establish their dominance. Ultimately, they had just competed with themselves. "Your house is magnificent," my Aunt Sarah commented when she discovered me standing by the Christmas tree. "But with all this room for just one, I can't help but wonder if it's a little lonely. Individual." As I considered the research center I intended to set up in the East Wing, I grinned. "Not lonely at all. I put precisely what I wanted in there. Want, just as I have lived my life pursuing my own desires rather than those that other people believe I ought to have. The fact that my family still resides next door in their Victorian serves as a constant reminder that sometimes getting even isn't the greatest form of retaliation. It's about overcoming. They wanted me to learn the importance of understanding my role. Rather, they discovered that I had been underestimated. For my part, I compose research papers in my library, organize charity events in my ballroom, and take pleasure in my rooftop garden, which offers a wonderful view of their tiny home. As I entertain guests, I occasionally catch them observing from their windows. Or concentrate on fresh property enhancements. Let them observe. For years, they treated me more like a rival than a member of their family. They can now spend years residing close to the steady reminder that they were defeated in a match. Never ought to have begun.